Jackie Utter. I have Doris Kitts with me, and this morning we're going to talk about managing meeting attendance within Power School. I'm hoping everyone's had a good week. I'd like to make sure that everyone can hear, so if you would please raise your hand within the webinar, I'll be able to see. Awesome. I can see lots of hands. That's
yeah.
perfect.
And they're listening.
And they're listening. That's awesome. Okay. So this morning, what we're going to do and how it's going to work is that I'm going to be going through the PowerPoint and jumping into Power School. So it will be a little bit of flipping back and forth. I'm hoping that is going to be an okay route for us to take. I'm also going to be taking questions along the way, and Doris is going to help on that end of things. So if you have any questions, please put them in the question area within the webinar, and we will answer them as we go, and if there's things that are going to be held later on, we'll let you know that as well. All right, so the bit.ly is on the front page of the webinar, and it's also in the chat. So if you open up the chat area, I did send the bit.ly there, so you can grab it. You can wait and follow along with me and then grab it at the end if you want, or we'll find another way to get it to you.
You can always ask them a question, and I can post it to them that way as well.
Awesome sauce. All right, here we go. So what am I going to be talking about this morning is basically what is meeting attendance. We're going to go through the setup, what had to be done and in correctly so that our meeting attendance can work. We're going to talk about editing attendance for a section. So if you're going to be taking attendance for a teacher, we're going to look at editing a meeting attendance for a student. We're going to run a couple reports to find teachers who haven't taken attendance. And then there's a couple tips and links that we have at the end of our morning together. So I got about an hour and a half. Let's kind of see where we go with that. So really, what is meeting attendance? Kind of an easy question, right? Where attendance is going to be required to be recorded every time a class meets. So every teacher in every class is going to record attendance. So if a student has 6 classes in a day, then attendance has to be recorded 6 times a day for that student. Now, if you actually have a class that meets more than one period, you can actually set it up so that we can have the section take attendance once, and it will apply to both periods of that section. So we can look at that. Time in and time out is not recorded on the student's attendance page because we are not daily, we are meeting attendance. So it's just, are they there, are they not there based on the attendance code for that particular class. A student is tardy or absent based upon the amount of class time, and that is determined by your LEA policy. So that's part of all of our pre-setup stuff that we're going to look at. And I'm going to say that only the meeting attendance screen should be used on the student's attendance page to enter data. If we have it set up right, then you're not even going to see the daily as an option on that attendance page. So those are just kind of the quick little front-up things that we're going to handle today. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at the setup. So we definitely have to make sure that we have years and terms set up, and that is including every one of your program schools, and it includes going back to 2001. So when you are setting up your years and terms, you have to have the first day and the last day of school, and definitely no gaps in between. So when you're setting up your semester 1 and semester 2, there is no blanks in between those. It's the last day of one term, the next day starts the next term. So make sure that is in place. And we are talking about a lot this year where make sure all of your program schools have at least the year-long years and terms set, and you have to go back all the way to 2001. So if your school wasn't in existence back in 2001, you can just use the fiscal year, like July 1 to June 30. But if your school does exist back into those years, put the actual begin school and end of school date in your years and terms, year-long term. You don't have to do semesters and quarters unless, of course, you're doing some cross-enrolling where the student is coming is in a semester course, and you only have it set up for a year. Then you do need those other terms set up. Okay, so that's a lot of talk, but we need to make sure that piece is done. The second piece is we need to look at the calendar, make sure that the first and last days on the calendar are considered in session, and then we're going to take a look at the track boxes. And if you are a track school, then you know which ones you're going to check and uncheck. But if you're not a track school, either they all have to be checked or they all have to be unchecked. There can't be any combination of both, because then the system thinks that you are a track school and things kind of work differently. And we also want to look at the PMR and make sure that our intervals are set up and make sure we have stuff set up at the bell schedule. So we're gonna, I'm gonna jump into Power School and show you the calendar setup. I'm gonna change my screen, so bear with me for a sec. My little mouse isn't doing what it needs. Okay, so where we are at a high school in a play database area. I'm going to scroll down the left-hand side and click School. I'm going to scroll down under Calendaring and look at the calendar setup. So this particular we're looking in January 17, but I am still in this particular database. I am in the 16-17 school year. It has not been end of year or anything like that. So I'm going to jump back to August of 2016-17, and those are advisories. Let's jump into September. So you should have your cycle days set. So if you're an A day, B day school, what each day is. You need to have the name of the bell schedule, whether it's a regular day or whether it is a special kind of day. And there's definitely the box for school is in session needs to be in place. Your membership value, if you're not a track school, either none of these or all of these, all the way through your calendar. And if it is an in-session type of day, that can be your type. If it is a holiday, so if I scroll down and Monday, September 5th is the holiday, I can call it, there's no bell schedule, there's no membership value, there is no in-session. The type is called a school holiday, so that the system knows that we're not going to collect and keep attendance. So make sure your calendar is set correctly. Do you need to check the boxes if the weekdays are checked? I don't understand the question. So the question is, do we need to check the boxes?
No, for Saturday, Sunday?
Do you mean Saturday, Sunday? Is that what you mean?
she's showing the screen the way it should. Oh, no. Okay, Saturday and Sunday are left unchecked unless you actually have school on Saturday. I hope that's
Okay,
the answer.
so I think that's what you're asking. So if that's what you're asking, then you can leave Saturday, Sunday undone altogether, because they should automatically be a 0 membership value and not in session and all of that. So those can stay undone. But as far as the tracks in session, those boxes still need to be the same as your Monday through Friday stuff. Okay, if that doesn't answer your question, Mindy, can you kind of rephrase it for me, and it'll get through my thick head, I promise.
It's morning.
Okay. Let me jump back into the PowerPoint. All right. So more things that we need to look at that we're going to jump into is the attendance preferences. So these are some of the important settings that are in there. Obviously, there's more settings than that in the preferences page. But as we're looking at it, we need to make sure that our recording method is set to meeting. We never, ever, ever check the audit attendance record box. The default attendance page is going to be meeting, so that's how we're going to make sure that the daily doesn't show up at all. The enable multiple characters, we definitely want to check that box, because in North Carolina, our attendance codes are more than one digit, more than one character. And for the meeting and daily attendance bridge, it's a one-way. So make sure that radio button is checked for one way. So that's, I think I had an email about that a couple days ago, and the answer to that, I'm hoping that person is online this morning, so we know that it is definitely one way for here in North Carolina. The interval duration is going to be 0 minutes, and we always make the deduct passing time as a no. So I'm going to jump in and show that to you in Power School. I'm going to go back to my home page. Maybe. Thinking about it. All right. I'm then going to go back to my school setup. And I'm going to go under the attendance area. I'm going to click preferences. It's moving slow this morning. Okay. All right, so here we are. It is set to meeting. We did not check that audit. Our default attendance is meeting. I have it enabled for multiple characters. My bridge is set to one way. So these next couple options is an LEA or school decision. The number of school days the teachers can alter their attendance. So one is asking about prior to the current date, and one is asking about after the current date. So in this particular case, this school is allowing them to go back one day to edit attendance, but they are not allowed to go after the current date to deal with attendance. Are we okay with Mindy?
Yes, we're good.
Okay, cool. I'm going to try and see if I can get my screen back to snuff here. Okay, so the calculation accuracy, it is usually set at 2, and we count the meeting attendance at another school. That is a decision that you guys have to make. So I believe that you own the student that are enrolled with you. Count these codes for the period conversion. We're counting absences. We are in negative attendance state, basically. We're going to truncate instead of round. We definitely are going to say no to the deduct passing time. And the bottom, the set of information is how we are going to work and look at students with excessive absences, basically. We're going to store up to 20 of those consecutive absences, and we're going to look at that through a report, and we're not going to enable that notification. All right, so that is what your item should look like in your preferences. Do we have any questions about that preferences page?
We do not have questions yet, Jackie.
Thank you. All right. Now we need to talk about FTE. So North Carolina says we have only one FTE. So if you feel like you really have to have more than one and you want to justify that, you need to justify that and work with Ozella Wiggins. So her email is on the PowerPoint, and I'm just going to let it go at that. You guys have to work that out. We need to make sure we set up at all of our schools and our program schools all the way back to 2001. They have to have FTEs. So that kind of works along with what I talked about, creating the years and terms. Every student has to have an FTE defined on their current year record. Okay, even if they're inactive, all of them have to have an FTE defined in their current year. So we need to find that correct FTE ID to make sure all the students have the correct one identified for them. So the next piece is, how do we determine that FTE ID? So there's one way I could do it here. I'm showing you. The other way is you can just go to DDE and go to the FTE ID table. This is kind of a quicker way that takes you to the same place. So if you're at your school level and you navigate to school and then attendance, and then you're going to click full-time equivalencies, so the FTE. When you get there and it shows you the FTE records, you're going to click the name of the FTE. So it may be called full-time. That's an example of a name of the FTE. When you click it, you're going to have the screen that looks on the picture of my page. What I did is I highlighted the URL and made it a little bit bigger so you can see, because you're going to edit the URL. So at the very top of that page, you're going to see it right there. You're going to change the FRN, so Frank, Robert, Nancy. You're going to change those letters to MCR, Mary, Cat, Robert. And that will actually open up the FTE ID table, and it will give you the ID there. So it really is the same as going into DDE and opening up that FTE record within DDE. So when you see it, there is the ID. This example is 4202. So this is the ID for my school year 27. So it's my current year and it's my current school ID. So the current school that I am in. Okay, once you have the ID number, we can then start searching our students back in our start page. So on our start page, if you're following along with me, go back to your start page and do a search. So in order to find students that do not have the correct FTE ID, you can do a search where it says FTE ID left bracket, right bracket, and then put in that number of the ID. So on the other page, I found the ID to be 4202. So it will be FTE ID left bracket, right bracket, 4202. You don't need any of those, the fancy brackets that I put there, just the number of the ID. And that will return to you all students without the correct FTE ID for my current year. You can do another search where to find all students that are missing an FTE altogether. And that search is quite simple. It's just FTE ID equals with nothing after it. And then if you hit enter to do the search, it will return you all students that don't have an FTE at all. Make sure that you're including your inactive students as well when you're doing your searches up above. So use that front slash to include those inactive students. And when you have a bunch, if you have a bunch, they can be fixed in mass by using the student field value function. And when you do that, you're definitely going to make sure you have the code ready to put in. Okay, are we having questions?
No, not a question.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Let me continue on. Let's talk about attendance conversion. So I'm going to bring it up on the screen so you can see it, but when we go into the conversion page, there's things that we do set up and things that we don't. So we don't use the period, and that's one of the columns of information that you see. And we only use the code if we are a daily school and it's a workaround for the attendance tracking, where we only use the 2A code. So that's what the attendance tracking works with. So we're only going to use the code if we're a daily attendance school. We will always set up 2 tiers under the time, and our minutes present should be exactly 50% of the instructional minutes per day. So I'll show you that. And we're going to set up a separate attendance conversion for every bell schedule that you have. So I'm going to jump back into Power School so you can see that. I'm going to let me change my screen. And there it is. So on my school setup page, so on the left-hand side, I went down and clicked school. And now under my attendance area, I'm going to click attendance conversions. And if you look here, it will show the one that has been created. So I have a full day conversion created. And I notice that under period it says none because we don't use them. And because this is a high school and it's not a daily attendance school, I'm not using a code, and I do have 2 tiers for my time. So I'm going to click the 2 tiers so you can see what it looks like. So what happens here is you're going to put in for my regular bell schedule day, I'm going to put in from 0 minutes up to 179 minutes, my student is considered absent. And if I do anything above 180 minutes, they are considered present. So they get a value of 1 and they are considered present. So that is the time to day conversion for full day. Okay, and we set up a different conversion for every bell schedule that we have. So if you have an early release bell schedule, you should have another conversion where only the early release bell schedule is attached to, because normally that's a reduced number of minutes. So you're going to create one with a different number of minutes in that particular field right there. Okay, how are we doing? I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint? Cool. So this is what it looks like. Under full-time, when you're creating it, you need to tell it what your default attendance mode is. So it's going to be meeting. We always do time today in North Carolina, so that is our default attendance conversion, is time today. Sorry about that. And we are going to check mark all of the grade levels that work with that attendance conversion. So under code, if we were going to create a code today conversion in a very particular instance, it will look like this bottom picture right here, where we're going to set up the 2A code, and we're going to give that a daily attendance value of 0 for our daily code today conversion. But you're only going to use it if you're daily and you're using attendance tracking. Okay. On this particular page, I'm showing you what the 2 tiers look like. So in addition to what I showed you on the PowerSchool page itself, it's written in our PowerPoint slides. This is what a 2-tier time looks like. One line shows the 0 value, which means the student is absent, and then the second line is 50% of the full day minutes for that particular person. So this case is 185 minutes. They are considered present, so they get a value of 1. And like I said, you'll create a different attendance conversion for every bell schedule that you have. Any questions about that stuff? Okay.
We're good. Pardon me.
We're still working through some FTE stuff. Okay. The calendar setup, we kind of talked about it a little bit already. Make sure every day has a day and schedule, bell schedule set for it. Your tracks are either going to be all checked or all unchecked. One thing that I want to make sure you have is that your PMR is set at your bell schedule. So this is just a picture of what it could and should look like at a single day cycle school. On September 1st, there was an early release day. The school is still in session. They're still in membership, and it's considered in session, but it has an early bell schedule, an early release time frame to it. And you'll notice that Monday, September 4th is going to be a holiday, so there is no cycle day there. It is not using any bell schedule. It's not in session. Oh, and our membership value. And membership value says 1. Are we still in membership? Just not in session.
1 means you're in session,
Yeah.
0 means you're not.
So I need to change that to a 0. So that screen is wrong.
That's a good example not to put in to see that.
Yeah.
It's an easy mistake.
Yeah, it is. Because I made it last night, obviously. That's why the picture says what it does.
More than 1 click.
Okay, that's for sure. All right, so make sure that the membership value really is in place correctly. So obviously I have my Labor Day wrong on this particular page. I'll take that as a teaching moment, even though it was just me. Okay, so PMR stuff. We have found some issues in the recent past, so I definitely want to make sure we go over this. So your PMR instructional minutes have to be set so that we are calculating attendance correctly. So when we are doing this, the PMR instructional minutes are set differently. It is calculated for the attendance conversion, but not the entire school day. So the PMR doesn't look at the attendance conversion. Instead, it just takes half of the PMR instructional minutes. So when we set up our PMR instructional minutes, we have those intervals already created. So we have the days, the number of days that constitute the PMR, and then we have the instructional minutes set to be whatever the appropriate number is. The one thing that we've been finding is missing is on the bell schedule side of the house. So on your bell schedules, you could have more than one bell schedule. We all know that. But we definitely have to have at least one, and it should be only one in most cases. So the PMR has to have something to calculate minutes against. So under one of your bell schedules, you need to click one of them. So you click on the name, and on that edit page, there is a use for PMR and SAR calculation of minutes. Now, one of these bell schedules have to have this field set to yes. The default is blank. So what I really would suggest we do is that every other bell schedule, go in and edit it and set it to no. All of them should have a field set, either yes or no for this particular field entry. If you leave stuff blank, then what happens is it will take all of your bell schedules and average all those times up, so that the calculation is going to be skewed. So definitely go into all of your bell schedules and set one of them for use for PMR to yes, and all of the other ones should be set to no. Any questions about that? Because we've had a lot of places where we found a lot of blanks and not anything set to a yes. Cool beans. Hearing none, so carried. Okay. This is where, and it's not used all that often, but the Start School attendance page has an option that says Section Attendance Settings. And this is for class, only for classes that meet more than one period in a day. So if you have a double period class, think through this decision. So if you want to take attendance for one of the periods and have it automatically count for the second period, then you will set this up. But don't forget, if a student is only there for half of that double period, you're going to have to go in and edit that other half of period, because it will automatically give you the same attendance for both of those periods for that class. So let's talk about how it works. If you click on that option, Section Attendance Settings, you will see the screen picture on this left right there. And you're going to click that link where it says Section Attendance Settings Results. And then what you will see is a list of all of the sections and what they are set up to be. And if you want it to be each meeting separately, so you have to check your attendance in both of those periods, or you want to say, no, for this section, I want to count just once for all the times it meets, you're going to click the section name or the number. Actually, use the section number, it's better. Use the section number and then change this field setting, this particular, and I knew that was going to happen, that you can't see right now because the black is in the way. It says record attendance once for all meetings. So you're going to change that radio button to once for all meetings. Right now, it's default to each meeting separately. Does that make sense to everyone? So you're only going to use that and go here for the classes that meet more than one period in your day, and if you want to have yourself only, or the teachers responsible for taking attendance once, and it will put it for both of those meeting periods. You have questions?
We have one question. I answered it, but it is a good question. We should let the public, everyone know.
Uh-huh.
They have a school that uses, it's basically an A bell, B bell. One week you have one bell, the next week you have another bell, but the amount of time in both bells is the same. So what would they do in their PM, for their PMR? And in that case, they could just select one of them because it's the same amount of time.
Because it's the same amount of time, excellent. So the only time you'd have two set is if they were two different amounts of time.
And it ran like this every other week, because then that would be something you'd want to count.
Definitely.
So that's a really good question.
Thanks, Derek. Appreciate that, because now we all know how to do that for our future options. Okay. All right. Let's actually finally get into editing attendance. How about that? That'd be a good thing. Okay, so after all that setup is done, you actually can enter attendance for a section, a class, for a particular date range. So if you have to be taking attendance for a teacher because it's a substitute for the day, they can bring down all of the attendance, and you can actually set and enter the attendance for that section. So the navigation, how you would get there, is from the start page. You'd go to your teacher schedules. On the left-hand side, you would choose the teacher name, so you'd click the name, and you would click the chair for one of the sections, and it brings up the attendance page for all of the students in that class. You're going to change the code to what you want it to be. Change the date range for what day or days that you need to enter the attendance. And then you're going to click in the cell where you want that code that you chose to be set. If you don't change the attendance code in this drop down, you could click in the cell and click and choose from the drop down what attendance code you want it to be. But the quick and easy way is to change the code first, and then just click on the students that need to have that code, whether it is the 2L or the 2.
You got your
is it?
You've got 1L, 2L.
1L, 2L. Okay, that's what it was. The 1L and the 2L. Okay. Any questions about how to do it for an entire class? So if you go to the teacher schedule, click on the name, click on the chair for the section, you can actually take attendance for an entire class on one page. Cool. Now let's look at it from a student's point of view. So this time I'm entering attendance just for one student, or I'm modifying attendance. So you're going to go to your start page, select a student, and you're going to click the attendance from the student navigation bar on the left-hand side. So when you do that, you're going to see this particular type of screen. All of his classes show on the left-hand side, and it does show the weeks of attendance, and each of those weeks are actually links because they're blue and they're bolded, so we know it's a link. We can actually click the Change Meeting Attendance button. But before we leave this screen, I just want to show you and let you know that if you see a dash on the attendance screen, that indicates that the school is not in session or that the student was not enrolled in that class on that date. Okay, if you see a dot on that screen, it indicates that class or section doesn't take place on that day. So if you're an A day, B day schedule and the class only meets A days, you will see a dot on the B days for that particular class. Okay, so that's what that screen looks like. Any questions about that? How are our questions going?
You're doing an excellent job, no question.
Oops. We'll save that for later and see what happens. Okay. So this is an actual page. So now we want to actually change something, some attendance, someplace for some day. You're going to click the Change Meeting Attendance button, and this is the page that comes up. So right now at the top, it has the student name. You're going to choose the from date and the to date, so you could actually change multiple days at one time. In this particular case, I'm only changing one day. And then next, it says meetings to scan. So you're going to select the periods here that you're going to be changing the code to. So you can choose one period, some, or actually all if you need to change all of the periods for that particular day. The next panel down below is deciding if you want to scan for all different codes or just certain codes that you want to overwrite. So what does that kind of mean in English? So if I'm looking at this student and I only want to change his code if he has, let's say, a present code in those particular periods, I can just choose the present attendance code. Or if I think that it doesn't matter what he's had there before, if he's had any of those codes, I don't care, I'm going to overwrite with the one I choose, then you can leave it blank and have the radio button set to all, and it will look at all of those codes for those periods that I have selected above. And I'm going to choose to overwrite that, which is the bubble down below, to overwrite it. And if I want to put in a comment and pick the attendance code that I want to change it to. So first, you're going to choose the codes or the periods that you want to change the code for. Decide if you want to look for only a very specific code, and then choose the code you want it to be, whether you want to overwrite it, put a comment in, and submit the page. Any questions about that? Okay, so that's editing a meeting attendance for one kid for one day on this particular page. Let's talk about doing it for multiple kids. So maybe all of the baseball kids are going to leave early to go to a baseball game. So you first have to choose your students. They have to be in your current selection. So find your kids on the baseball team, make sure they are checked, they're in your selection, and then you're going to go to select your functions, and under your group functions, you're going to choose attendance change. Once you do that, the same screen will appear. So it's the same as the screen we just saw, only this time it should tell you that you're changing it for multiple students. Choose the date that you want to change. Choose the period that you need to change it for. So I want them to leave periods 4 and periods 5. I'm changing those periods only. And I only want to change it if they have a present code in there. So I'm only going to change this for my baseball kids that are actually present for the day to this, whatever code it is for leaving early for a baseball team. If they have any of these other codes listed, for example, if they were tardy, that means they can't go, or maybe if they have an in-school suspension code, then obviously they're not going to be leaving to go to the baseball game. So I'm actually only picking one code. So if they have a present type code, I'm going to say, oh, then they obviously are going on this trip. So I'm going to change periods 4 and period 5. I'm going to overwrite that present code with my code in this particular funny screen, I chose it to be quarantined, which obviously is not the right code for a baseball trip, but that's okay. I'm going to choose to overwrite. I probably would put a comment in there as well saying that's what they're doing, leaving for a game, and then submit that page.
Jackie, someone was asking, can sign in and out be recorded for meeting attendance?
Yeah, no, we can't do that, I'm afraid, because of all of the state reporting, the PMR and the SAR stuff. If you're a meeting attendance, it's just present or absent during that period of time. I'm afraid that's all we can do at this point.
Well, it's a cool feature if they could.
Yeah, it is. But because we're doing it meeting by meeting and the way North Carolina counts minutes, it has to be done that way.
Thank you.
Okay, we're doing pretty well. It's only 9:45. We're doing really well. So let's look at some teachers, find teachers who have not taken attendance. So how do we go about doing that? There's a couple different ways you can do it. So you can use the Power Teacher Attendance Report, or we can view the Teacher Attendance Submission Status page. So let's talk about the first one first. Running the Power Teacher Attendance Report. To get there, you'd go to your Start page. Under your functions, you're going to click Attendance. And when you get to the Attendance area, you're going to go to the Reports tab, and you're going to choose Power Teacher Attendance. We're going to choose the right criteria and the right period boxes, or we're going to leave it blank, and we're going to submit the page. So I'm going to go there and show it to you what it looks like, but this picture actually is a result. So in this particular picture, I have teachers that have not submitted attendance for one or more periods that they teach. So our second person on this particular page didn't do attendance in 2 classes that he or she teaches. Okay, let's jump in and try and run it for ourselves. So I'm going to go back to my, I click the home page and hopefully it'll come back. Cool. All right. So under the Start page, under my functions on the left, I'm going to click Attendance. And when I click Attendance, I'm on the Reports tab. I'm going to choose the Power Teacher Attendance Report. This is what the criteria page looks like. You can choose what date you want to be running this for, so I can run it for any single day. And if I want to look at all of the periods to see whether they've taken attendance or not, I'm going to leave it blank. But if you only want to see who is not taking attendance in the first period of the day, I can just check the number 1 for that first period. But I'm going to do it for all. I want 50 lines per page. That kind of stuff is kind of your discretion. And then I'm going to submit that page. And I can only submit it if I can see it. There we go. So when I submit it, it shows up on my report queue. And if I want to look at it, and I know that you guys probably already know this, but I'm just going to reiterate it. I do refresh till it's done. I do a right click on my view, and then I open it in a new tab so that I can always have my other tab already open and still looking at it. So this is what it looks like. And well, first of all, I picked the wrong date because I don't have anything happening in 2017. So I chose the wrong date. But this is what happens if all teachers have taken attendance. So this is in our perfect world, and this is what we like to see. a blank report. But we know that that doesn't always happen. So I'm going to actually close that window, and I should probably look at one that I've already ran in the past, just so you can see what it looks like. I am going to right-click one I have run recently, and I'm going to open that one up. But this is a static. I've run this before, and it says for this particular date, August 29th of 2016, these are the teachers. Looks like this person has not taken attendance in any of the classes or sections. This person has missed charity, has missed 2. So that's a good thing to have. It's a good thing to print and give to your administrators to hopefully make them aware that these teachers are not taking attendance, and try and make them, see if they can help out with making them get it and have it done. All right. Any questions about that? There's going to be the next way we are going to be able to look at taking attendance and who has and who hasn't. I'm going back to my PowerPoint. And it's a view page that you can look at. So it's a teacher attendance submission status page. So we're going to do it in the same way. We're going to start on the start page, go to attendance. Under the reports tab, this time we're going to choose teacher attendance submission status. We're going to look at the different criteria on that page, and then we're going to submit it. So on this particular picture, it will show you all of the reporting criteria. Choose the date that you want to display. You have the option of checking the next box to be yes or no. It says show sections excluded from attendance. So if you don't want to see them, you can leave it at no. Choose the order by alphabetic. If I want to show all of my statuses, leave the radio button at all, and it will show you all of your options. So on the left, there are 3 different types of statuses that you will see. You will see either a green check mark, where it will let us know that that teacher has submitted all of his or her class attendance. The yellow has a triangle with an exclamation point in it, and that means they've submitted attendance for some of their classes. And then the red one with a stop sign with an exclamation point in it means they have not taken attendance for any of their classes. So on the show criteria, if you can say, just show me the ones that have completed it, you can choose that radio button, or show me the ones that are incomplete, either yellow or red. But I don't know, I like to see them all. If you don't want to see the green ones, then I would suggest choosing the bottom radio button. Just show me the ones who have not. So anyone that does not have a green option. Any questions about that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So Kimberly is looking for the PowerPoint.
I gave her the PowerPoint.
That's awesome. Thank you very much. Couldn't do it without you. Definitely. It's hard to do 2 things.
We are a good team.
Okay. So some tips, some links that we have that is good. There are documents on the NCSIS site. There's an actual attendance page where you can see a lot of different options. So I'm going to take us there in a minute, but the actual page for a QRD for attendance preferences is found under the documents, attendance, and it's called PSQRD Attendance Preferences Meeting. There's also one that talks about bell schedules and meeting attendance. There's one that helps you through the attendance conversion setup, and a couple of the ones below that. So there's data access tags. Those are kind of cool because you're able to build your own lists and reports and pull some data access tags that will give you a lot more information. So I'm gonna let that go as to just the data access tag. That's actually found in Power Source, and there's a very specific article number, 55752, that will help you with those data access tags and how to use them. If you're a school that uses attendance tracking, and from what I've told, what I've been told is that we're gonna mostly all be going to attendance tracking. Is that kind of what Rosalind was?
Well, the ESSA is going to make it.
Okay. So we have this new legislative acronym, ESSA.
Every Student Succeeds Act.
Every Student Succeeds Act. Good, thank you. She just told me, and it just left my mind. So we're probably going to end up going this way to attendance tracking. So it might be a good thing to, if you haven't started doing it yet, you might want to just take a look at it from that particular webinar site. So I'm going to take us to the NCSIS site. I'm going to go there, and I'm going to open it up on, received it? Yes, finally, awesome. So on this particular site, if I go to the top and on the URL, I do / attendance, right? I think it's documents attendance.
We do have someone asking if we could repeat about what we said about sign in and sign out for meeting attendance school. Should they not be putting in the sign in, sign out at meeting attendance school?
Correct. So when you do a sign in and sign out, as far as time is considered, that's correct. We are not going to put time in and time out for meeting attendance schools.
A lot of it is dependent upon the number of periods versus the number of minutes, which is what daily is based on, right? Isn't that right?
Daily is based on number of minutes, and meeting is just based on the period attendance of each class. They're here or not there. Can I demo? Okay. Yeah, hold on one sec. Let me, right now we're looking at the NCSIS site, and this particular document site has a lot of different QRDs, quick reference documents, about different items that we are dealing with. So it's really good to look at it. I'll actually click on the sign in, sign out PDF just to see what that has to show us. So it even tells us that sign in and sign out is based on daily attendance. And if we don't show the daily attendance, so if it doesn't look like this particular page, you're not going to be able to put in and shouldn't be putting in the in time and out time.
One person, I like Camilla's suggestion, and I believe it's something similar to what you said about they make a comment about the time of when the school student signs out to verify that it's being counted the way it should.
Right. And right now that is the way we have to go. We have to use the comment area for a lot of our specific times in and times out, because we do like to, I mean, it's an awesome thing. We would like to track that if we could some other way. Where is this PowerPoint and when will the webinar be available? Okay, so as soon as we are done today, I'm going to try and send it to the person who gets to post it. It just may not happen today, but the recording will be posted by the end of the week. So by the end of day Friday, it should probably be out there. And it may be sooner. And the PowerPoint will
I sent her the link.
The link is there for everyone, but that also will get posted as well.
And you can always download it. When you go to the link, click onto File, and it says Download As, and then you just download it in the format that you need it on your desktop. Okay.
So very true. Alrighty. I'm looking at the QRDs that we have. If there are other ones that you don't, if there's some kind of process that you don't have access to, you can always just put in a remedy ticket and just ask for, say, you know, it's a low priority, but is there some kind of way that we can do X? And then it will actually filter to where it needs to go so we can get things posted that you guys really need, because that's what our aim is here, is to make sure you have all of the documentation and reference materials that you can to continue the day-to-day stuff with attendance. Because obviously attendance is money in our business, and we need to make sure we're doing it correctly. Oh, we're an hour. There's not
meeting attendance is fairly straightforward.
It really is.
As long as you have the schedule set up correctly and your bell schedules, like you said, it really goes well.
Because basically, once you hit change meeting, that button, it's the same screen all the time. So you just need to make sure that you're looking at the right periods and you're changing the right kind of codes.
Okay.
May I have any other questions?
We've had some good questions today.
Right. And these question and answers at some point in time will also get posted. They take a little longer to end up getting out there, but all questions and answers will be posted as well. Anything else we can do for you guys today? Is there anything that I didn't show you that you want to see? See, I don't have the ability to see your little faces, so I don't know whether I've lost you or you went to get coffee or what. So I'm going to have to rely on the question panel. All right. I'm going to give us another minute or so, and then if we don't have anything going on, I'm going to end it. I don't want to waste all of our time.
What is the best way to find out if a student has missed the whole day in meeting attendance, quick export, etc.?
Okay, let me go back to the start page. So I'm going back into PowerSchool itself. So a student missed the whole day in meeting attendance. So I'm going to pick a little cherub. Do I have any? I do not. I'm going to look at Daisy Aladdin. I'm going to set her as my current selection. If I click on a student name, and I know that you want to know a little bit different, you can, from the student record, scroll down the left-hand side and click their attendance. You should be able to see on this particular page, it'll show you all of their attendance for the entire year if you scroll to the left and right and you scroll up and down. Now, I am probably in the wrong term. Let me go check my term. Yeah, I am in 16-17 semester 2. So it's only going to show me semester 2 stuff. So let me change my term to year long. And now I can see everything for every class, every period. So Marcia, do you like that better than doing a quick export, or is it something that you needed to put on paper someplace? Okay, while I'm waiting for her to respond, you can see here that there are some dots. So that is an A day, B day situation. That shows me that the student was absent has a 1B code on an A day, but B day, obviously, the student was there. There is no dot, meaning it's there, but he was present. So it only is going to show me the non-present codes.
She's looking for a report, etc., that will show the total full day absence for any student. So there's a list of students that have missed 8 or more full days.
So are you doing attendance tracking? Are you using that particular that function? If you're not using, no, not attendance tracking yet. Okay. So NI was very much on the mark. So what she showed us is a data access tag. It's a special kind of search. It is a asterisk DABS, and that is daily absence. And it will show you, so you can do that with a student list. So let me go back to my start page.
Now, do they need to put any dates in there? Or would we just put the flat dabs?
Well, we're going to do it right now. We're going to
Okay,
find out.
we'll find out. Cool.
Okay. So under student list.
Okay, Nana says she usually uses dates.
Yeah. I'm going to do it for all. And I'm going to set. And I need to make my screen a little bit smaller so that I can see what's going on. All right, so now that I have that set for everyone, I'm going to not do an attendance change. I'm going to do a list students. So here I can choose, first I'm just going to put the student's name in there. And then here I can do star DABS. If I don't know that, I can click fields, and I can, it should show me here. I thought it used to show us that under the fields. Guess they didn't do that anymore. Okay. So if I do that, I believe that there's definitely criteria there. So what I want to do is, because I don't have these memorized definitely for ever and ever, I am going to go to this data access tag article. Just hold with me, please. I'll be right with you. All right, so this is something that I want to show you, so I'm going to change my screen, if I could get to it. Man, this is hard to do with a one tiny little screen in front of me. So, it's not letting me change my screen.
Nana gave us one.
All right, so this is what the data access tags include. This is how it does a list. It shows me a list of all of them. So if I click on the dabs, so this is the one that we want to look at. I'm going to do a control F, and I'm going to do DABS. So this is the format that it needs to be in. We return the total number of daily absences. So if I use the caret and the dabs, if I choose to put dates in, you're going to do it with a semicolon and the dates separated by semicolon as well. So I can do it for a one or multiple dates, or I can, it'll just, if I don't put any dates, it will do up to current day. If I want to do specifically for a term, I would put a semicolon in the term in there. So it needs to be in this kind of format. So I am just going to do this one actually. So let's go back to this particular page.
And thank you, Nina, for sending me the one that you used, and I shared it with the entire group, just like what
cool.
she's using, one that she's using. Thank you.
Am I there? Yes, I'm there. So I'm going to do that, and I'm only going to do S1 actually. Total absence. And I just want to see what it looks like. So I'm just going to let it go as is. I'm going to submit the page. It probably is going to take forever because I chose not to put a date in. I chose the whole term.
Oh, yeah, that's going to bring you up.
Kind of silly. Silly of me, but it will work, and it's a good thing to show you.
While it's thinking, someone was asking about the docs and meetings where the attendance has been edited. It seems to mess with reporting ideas. She said, my school only has one day, but I've seen those docs and meetings where attendance has been edited. It seems to mess with reporting ideas. And sometimes if you mark a student absent, then go back and mark them present, that actually gives you an attendance.
Right, it really is a code, but the dot is supposed to mean that that class doesn't meet that day.
Oh.
It doesn't mean that.
We may need to look at that one.
Yeah, that
closer, Karen.
Right, that may actually need a remedy ticket actually.
Yeah, I think I think you're right.
Because the dot just means that that class isn't in session that day. It should not mean that the attendance has been modified. Of course, that always goes back to, are you doing A day, B day? Are you doing meeting? Is it set up as daily by mistake? All those kinds of other little things as well. It is still running. I was foolish in my testing this for you.
Okay. This is an interesting question. Okay. She is saying that if a high school student has less than the maximum amount of classes, say they have a late arrival and an early out, for this student to be counted absent for the day, should you mark them absent for all of the periods and not just the instructional classes? Any period that a student is late or is absent for should be marked, because if you're showing that a student was even in a class that is non-instructional, you're in essence giving the student an alibi saying they were in school.
Right.
They always use the alibi.
Yeah, right.
Because I think that actually happened.
Mm.
We're still churning.
Yes, exactly. So shouldn't mark them absent for all periods. No, I would definitely mark, if they are absent, mark them absent in all of the periods. Or if they are present in all of those periods, then that is definitely a come back to bite you issue.
And be sure when they leave early to mark in the comments, like someone had
Right.
said earlier, that they left at 3 o'clock, whereas the bell may ring at 3:15.
Right. And it does actually goes back to even fire drills and all of that kind of thing. So it's not just alibi-ish, but it also helps us if we have to account for children.
That's right, because they may be outside and using the mobile unit,
Mm-hmm.
pull up that student
Right.
and check that all their students are there based on what the app is telling them.
Yeah. Side note, I'll have to send this to my coordinator. She's designated to enter remedy tickets. Yes, Karen, that is awesome. That is another thing to consider, is that the people on this call may not be the ones to enter those tickets.
That's a good point. I forget about that.
Yes.
But I'm glad that you're a part of the conversation.
Yes, definitely. So it is still running great. I should have done something different. So let me.
Well, Marcia, we
Stop it.
did send you the information, and everyone has thanks to Nana, has the DAB, the way she does with days.
What if I just do one day? One day, and I do semicolon 8/30/. So I have 2 days, the 29th and the 30th. Now let's try it. Let's see if that takes less time. All right, it is 10:17. How are we doing?
Sorry, Naya.
May I?
Naya.
Sorry about that. I think I've been calling you Nye as well. I apologize.
She's been called everything these days.
I bet.
Good guy. Thanks. We apologize.
And I only chose that one day, so it's still churning. So they just mean that my sample database is kind of wonky anyway, and that's the nice way of saying it. So we need to work on that as well. Anything else that we can talk about? I'm still gonna let this churn until our time is up, or we get a result from it. But I would definitely look and read into those daily, the data access tags, because they really are good ones for attendance stuff. Okay, some of my daily schools want to take attendance in the subject like math. And it says, my Power School project manager told me that core Power School can do this. DPI said, no, don't do that. It will overstate absences on the PMR. I've heard from other LEAs that they are in fact recording absences in classes in a daily school with no issues. How do I need to set up my day school to do this? Okay, so this is my DPI hat on. And while it is true that core Power School can do that, North Carolina does not do that, because it does, in fact, raise havoc with how the PMR tracks minutes and all those kinds of things, and the SIR as well. So if they are, in fact, doing it, they are not getting the correct counting for their PMR. So we actually had a couple of questions yesterday on the same thing. We're a daily school, but we want to track that period by period and attendance. And because of the way it syncs, so when we are set to daily, it is a two-way sync. So it will actually change your daily code at the end of the day because of that daily bridge period. So it's going to look at your period codes and change them based on what the daily is. And if it's a two-way sync, it will actually, could possibly change the daily code based on what those meeting periods are showing. So we have been told that you really cannot and should not be taking period by period attendance if you're a daily school. Any other comments you could put with that, Doris?
Not really. I know that it is a very controversial subject. There are schools who have done it, but you have to be very diligent in some things. And then because of ESA, there may be some things coming where it's going to be hard to do it for those that are successful right now.
Okay. I do have results. So it does show me a list of students, but I'm not getting, I didn't get the data that I wanted. I didn't get my total absences. So now I would have to look at that and see, and I pretty much know why in this particular training database is because I haven't really done any kind of sync and minute calculations. We don't have all the little bells and whistles turned on in these training databases. So I probably won't get answers when I do some of these data access tags. I do see that someone tried it and it said it did not work on my site for days absent in the student list. It shows blank.
Looks like the only thing he did different was without the carrot.
Yeah, and the carrot and the squiggly,
the tilde.
Yeah, thank you. The tilde is they're supposed to be interchangeable, the tilde and the carrot, but sometimes they are not. You could try using the other. Other than that, we'd have to read more about it in that data access tag document, and it will tell us a little more detail. To be honest with you, I have not used that in quite a while because now I'm at a different place, so I don't have the ability or the options to.
Or the need sometimes. Sometimes right. It's just that we don't use right. them. We can sometimes tell you what's coming.
Yeah. So my other suggestion is if you can't get the answers that you need from the documentation, is you can put in, and I know I sound like a broken record, but if you do put in a remedy ticket or have someone do it for you, they can have the time, and they do take the time to go and research the information and answers for you. So that really is what they are there for. Not just to put out some fires, but they are there to do other helpful things as well. But I do kind of know why mine is not working because I don't have, all of my data is not being synced in my training database. It's 10:24. How are we doing? And I do know, Francine, you're the one that was talking about doing both. I know that there's definitely a function within PowerSchool that you definitely can't do if you're trying to do the both daily and the meeting together, because it will cause issues and wrong answers. And it's found under System, and it is the top item, so I'm hoping that you see that. Attendance Bridge Sync. You definitely cannot do this if you are trying to make the daily and the meeting thing work. So I know that's one thing that you definitely cannot run if you're trying to make it work. But even so, we've been told that it still does, it raises havoc with the PMR, and the best practice is not to.
Yeah, the best business practice is not to do it, unfortunately.
Yeah. We can actually go to bat for you guys and talk to Power School and ask, you know, what and how and if. But again, at this point in time, that is our answer.
Okay.
All right.
Well, we've got a lull in questions.
All right. It is 10:25. I think we did pretty well in this hour and a half time that we had. Hopefully that you will have the ability to grab the PowerPoint. The webinar itself will get posted. The recording will get posted. The Q's and A's will eventually get posted. I do not have an ETA for that. Other than that, anything for the good of the webinar? Okay, folks, thank you for attending. We will see you the next time around. Talk to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.